Hello everyone, my name is Feeble, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a two-part series, and well, kind of three I guess in a way, but it's going to be a two-part video I guess. So this is going to be how I do my banners slash renders and everything. I got a lot of questions about how I do my renders, for me to make a tutorial on it and everything, so yeah, here it is. Alright, so the way I'm going to be splitting this video up is this first video is going to be about how I do my my extrudes, how I do my poses and everything, and how I render everything. And then in the next video I'll go over how I do all like the Photoshop and the effects and everything and kind of all that stuff. So two videos. Don't know when the second one's going to be coming out, but hopefully I'm going to try to get them as close together as I can. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over how to extrude. So this is kind of like another thing that people have asked me, is how to extrude my rig. I'm not sure if it was just how to extrude in general, but I'm going to be going over how I extrude my rig and what steps I do and everything. So yeah. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is kind of do a character setup a little bit. So what I mean by that is I'm going to be like changing the eye color, eyebrow color, doing everything else. So yeah, let's get into that. So the first thing I'm just going to do is change the eye color. So I'm going to change this to like kind of like more of a hazel kind of color. And then I'm going to switch the eye type to something. We'll do this one. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Alright, next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to change the eyebrow colors. So this is my friend's Amazon. This is his skin. So just thought I'd use this just because it's a fun skin to extrude. So yeah. Alright, so the first thing that I do is I turn off the controllers. So I just click on the Q controller, and then I turn this off, and I'll close it, and yeah, now I can kind of see everything a lot better, see what I'm doing. Alright, so then I'm going to go to the layers, and I'm going to turn off the AFMR mesh. It's this purple layer right here, so all you got to do is just unlock it, and now we can click the mesh. Alright, so I usually go from top to bottom, so I start off with the head, or the hair, and kind of work my way down. So hair, arms, and then legs, sometimes body. I don't really typically do that, but for this we're going to be throwing on a jacket, so it'll look a lot better. Alright, so I recommend you go watch my rigging tutorial, the two-part thing that I've made so far. So you know what this is. If you've already watched it, then you don't really need to know what that is, but it's basically quantizing, which means it'll move it in whatever increment I set. So it's moving in increments of 10, and I'm just going to move this over here, and yeah, kind of just a little side thing, but that's what I use mainly. Okay, so to actually like start extruding, first of all, you're going to want to remove, what I do is I remove all the polygons, all the invisible polygons. So you want to go into your polygon selection, and you can see that there's a lot of them. So basically what I do is I will go into the live selection and just select everything that isn't or all like the hair pixels, making sure that I don't select any invisible ones, because that'll kind of give off a glitch depending on which Lightroom you're using, which is also another thing that I'll go over when we render. So yeah, not too big of a deal. Also, one more thing that I want to kind of say about selecting, to basically select something, you just left click and drag, and then if you want to select something over here, you just hold shift and then drag, and then it'll create two separate selections. And if you want to deselect, you hold control and drag. Alright, so now that I have the hair selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press U, I, and then that's going to invert the selection, and I'm just going to press backspace, or you can press delete. It's up to you. And yeah, there we go. Now we just have the hair. Alright, so from here it's a pretty easy process. I just select everything by doing Control A, and then I'll press D, which will give me the same tool that I used. And what I do is I just hold Control and drag until I find like a good point. You can use the offset. I don't really like using that, but it's up to you. Make sure also that your maximum angle is set to 91 degrees, or you can do 180. Because if you have it set to just 90, you're going to see that it's going to put spaces and it's not going to extrude right. So 91 degrees, and that will fill that space. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Yeah. Alright, so for the hair, I'm just going to kind of go right about there. That's pretty good. So yeah, now we can just go out of this, and next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude the hair. So I don't go into this and then extrude all this, just because it's kind of it'll mess up the facial expressions and everything. So what I do, or what I added in my rig, is I added a head extrude, which is underneath main options. You just click main, main, and then head extrude, and then just enable it. And this is just basically like a separate head that you can do whatever you want with, I guess. So basically, I just select the skin from this. So everything that is the skin, and I'm just gonna select it. Okay, so now that I have all the skin selected, or I guess like the face, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press delete, and that's gonna get rid of everything. And then what I'm gonna do is basically the same as I did over here, and just basically hold Control and then press A, and then select everything, and then extrude. So you might have noticed this glitch right here. This is a pretty easy thing to fix. So all you have to do is just deselect these by holding Control and clicking, and then just extrude. And I usually go about like 4.4 around in there. And then what you do is just click these two, and then alright, so then what you can do is you just click right here and then press apply, and then or press enter, and then it will give you the same extrusion. So there you go. So I'm just gonna move these back now. So it's just kind of a simple, easy process. And what might happen is that if you made the hair too big, it might fit over the top of the second layer. So all you have to do is just resize it, and yeah, and then I just kind of reposition it so it fits the head better. So kind of something that might be a little too big. Alright, so now that we have the hair all done and kind of to the size that we want it, it's time to move on to the arms. So this is kind of dependent on the skin. It's not really something that I can just tell you to do, because every skin is different. So it's kind of up to you. But typically what I will do is I'll just extrude the pixels right above the hand. So just kind of basically something like this. And then just select all of these and then extrude these. Not like that, but you kind of get what I'm saying. So just extrude these, and then that's kind of how I do mine. If you want to do like these up here, you can. I don't really want to, because this will interfere with the joint, so I don't really want to use smooth bends, so that's why. Alright, so instead of just kind of going around here like this and doing all that, there's an easier way to do that. And if you press UL, that'll give you the loop selection. So now you can loop select this, and then hold shift, and then just select that, and then there you go. It's super easy. So just press D, and then that'll give you your extrude tool. And I just bring this out about probably 2. Again, it's dependent on the skin and how good you want it. Yeah, so that's basically what I do for the arms. And then for the shoes, this is pretty easy too. I'll just select the shoes, just like this, and then just kind of extrude the shoes to what I think would look good. So I don't know, 3.15 looks pretty good to me. So yeah, there you go. Alright, so there's one last thing that we need to do, and that's add the subdivisions. So subdivisions are just, in my opinion, one of the best things about renders and everything. They just make everything look so smooth and so good. So yeah, to turn my subdivisions on, all you have to do is just click this third little red square, and then press Q on it, and there you go. So now subdivisions. Alright, so if you noticed, these kind of got round, and that's not really what we want. We just want it to be more smoothed out, I guess. So the way we're going to fix that is by opening up the rig, opening up mesh, opening up the arm, both the arms, and then both the legs, and then clicking the top ones. So to select all of these at once, which is what I usually do, you just click the top one, or you click one of them, hold Control, click the other one, and then just kind of go on with that. Because if you were to press Shift, that would select everything in the middle. So just hold Control and click them, and there you go. All right, so now we want to go back to our polygon selection, and then we're going to press Control A, and then if you're in older versions of Cinema 4D, I think R18 and below, you just want to press K, and then that'll give you the knife tool, and then over here it's going to say like which kind of, it's going to say plane or something, and you want to change it to loop, and then from there you can follow on. But if you're in R20, I think, to R23, you want to press KL, and then that'll give you the knife loop. So, or you could change the mode right here, I guess, or I don't know, I haven't really messed around with it that much, but yeah. Alright, so to cut this, what you're gonna do is just click right here, and then click right here, and then that's gonna give it more of a flat kind of look to it. And then same goes for the bottom. Just make sure that you can see like it wrapping around, because if it's like that, it's not gonna work, or if it's something like that, just make sure you see the white line to cut it. And then if you even want to go into more detail, you can cut it right there, and that'll get a bit even closer. But yeah, so this is how I like my extrudes to look. So I'm just gonna do that for all of them, and I'll come back when I'm done. Okay, so for the shoes, it's kind of a different story. Not really, it's kind of just dependent on the shoe, but yeah, so just kind of the same concept. And then when you get like something like this, just cut the top, cut right there, cut right there, cut right there, and then cut right there. And then I'm gonna do one more cut right there, and then there you go. Looks pretty good. So I'm gonna do that for the other one, and then I'll move on to the next step. Alright, so now we're done with the extrusions. So I'm gonna move on to like the assets, basically. So what we're gonna be adding is a jacket and a bandana, because his skin normally has a bandana, but I took it off because I wanted to add the Cinema 4D one. So it's up to you on what you want to add. I'm just gonna add these just so you guys can understand how to use them, because I've had a couple questions about how to use the jacket and everything. So it's but it's pretty simple, and there's a tutorial on it, so I don't know why people came to me, but yeah. So all you got to do is just open the project, and I have everything kind of organized depending on what thing I'm doing. So I'm just gonna go into rigs, then I have my Addon Rigs, and then a jacket by Flash, and then just double click in there. Okay, so now that I have the jacket in, I changed the skin and everything. If you want to learn how to use this rig, I'll put a link in the description on the tutorial and everything. I'll probably also leave a download link, because you can't really get this anymore, so I'll just make my own. Pretty easy. Alright, so it's gonna be like the same kind of thing. We're gonna move this over, and then we're gonna cut everything out. I'm not gonna be going over this too much in detail, because yeah, there's already a video. Okay, so now that I have the jacket all set up, and I add my own FFD just because it's kind of buggy with the other one. So basically, to add the jacket into my rig, you want to open up the rig, and then go to attachments, and then you want to find the body attachments, because that's where we want it to be linked to, and you just make it a child of that, and then when you bend the body, the jacket will bend with it. That's not the body. And yeah, so there you go. Now, alright, so the last thing is going to be the bandana. So that's going to be pretty much the same as the jacket. So again, just open up this, and then I have the bandana right here. I'll leave a link to this too if I can find the video. It's a really good bandana rig. I highly recommend it. But yeah, so I'm going to be using the image bandana thing. I don't know. Alright, so now that I have the bandana in, I'm just going to kind of resize it to what looks good. You want it to be kind of tight around their head, just because that's how bandanas are. But I like keeping it underneath the hair, so it just looks good. And then of course we're just going to take the bandana and move this to the neck attachments, which is when you move the head, it will move the bandana. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do to set this up is we're just going to kind of adjust the FFDs a little bit. So we're just going to take all of them like this, and we're going to bring it down, something like that. Maybe take all of these and shrink them in a little bit. And then do the same over here. And there we go. Alright, so now that we have everything kind of set, what we're going to do is we're going to put this into a Lightroom, and then we're going to start the pose. So basically what you want to do is you just want to open up a new thing, go to your Lightrooms wherever you have them stored. I have a lot in here. I got Flash, another Flash one, Fire, all of these ones, Mondays V3. The one that I use personally is the Flash Aether Lightroom. This one just works the best for me, and I just really love it, and just how everything comes out, it just looks really good. So yeah, this is the one I'm going to be using. Alright, so to actually bring this in, what I do is I have like side mouse buttons, so I can, if I press my down one or my back one, I can go into this and then bring me here. But if you don't have side mouse buttons, then what I recommend is you copy the rig, so just Control C it, and then open the Lightroom, and then Control V it into there, and then you have it set up. Or you can just open the Lightroom and then the rig. It's up to you in the beginning. So yeah. Alright, so it's just kind of a force of habit for me to just render the character after I'm done extruding with the Lightroom. It's just kind of a habit that I like to do, and I don't know, this looks good. So I'm just going to click this button right here, and then it's going to start rendering. Alright, so the render's done now, and it looks pretty good. So we're going to move on to the poses, and I also need to turn on face subdivisions, and then I'm going to... One thing I'm also going to do, this isn't something that you have to, but I know a lot of people do like it from the Addon rig, is turning or making the eyes single pupil. So again, if you want to learn how to do this, then I suggest go watching the tutorial for my rig. It's pretty simple. Alright, and then I'm going to do something else too, so that when we move this joint, it will, or this controller, it'll move the entire arm. So it's a pretty simple thing to do. You want to turn off the smart move, and then you want to open up the joints, and then I made it really easy. So you just bring this up right here, bring that right there, and now the arms will move all together. So yeah. Alright, so finally getting on to the poses. Sorry, there's a lot of things that I need to do to set up my characters, but basically what you're going to want to do for poses is kind of have an idea in your head already of what you want them to be doing. So for example, maybe they're running after a skeleton, maybe they're holding up a skeleton, maybe they're holding up some kind of mob or another player, holding a sword in a certain way. It's all dependent on what you want. So that's kind of like the beauty of this, is that you can do whatever you want. And there's no real way to like get better, like no tips I can really give to get better at making renders or poses. It's just kind of, you need to make it exactly how you're imagining it. So even if it's like where you have to like stand up or something and kind of do the pose in real life, then whatever helps you figure out what you need to do. This is the best advice I can kind of give on how to do poses. So for this, I'm just going to be doing like a simple kind of like ninja pose thing, I guess. So and I'm not going to be going too crazy with the render. I'm going to be doing something kind of simple just to keep the video kind of short. So I'm sorry if like it's not some over the top render with like a bunch of like a whole scene and everything, but I just want to show you guys how I do my my poses and everything. So I'm gonna quickly think of an idea, and then I'll start doing it, and I'll speed it up. So, and then I'll go over like each process too. So yeah. Okay, so I kind of have an idea, and if I ever need help, I just kind of go to Google and then I'll type in ninja poses and then something. So I kind of want a sitting pose. So I'm kind of thinking something like this, but a little bit different. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of remake that, or something like this one. So it's just kind of, you got to figure out what you're doing. So okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open up a pack that I made that has a bunch of stuff in it, and then I'm going to kind of just recreate what I want. So I think I'm gonna use, typically I like using gold swords with Amazon, just because it kind of fits, it looks good with him. So but I'm gonna use an iron sword this time, just to kind of keep it, or just change it up a little bit. Alright, so one thing I'm going to do real quickly is, you can see that when you shine, or like when you look at the sword in some way, it's not with everything, kind of has a reflectance on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of it, just because it makes it look weird, and I don't know, I just don't like it. One thing to also mention, when you're putting a tool or something into the character's hand, and you notice that it's like this, what you can do is you can just press W, or you can click this little thing right here, and then that'll change it so it's perfectly, or it's like along the axis. So it can even be like this, and it'll still be perfectly lined up with the axis. Alright, so now I'm going to actually go into the posing. I'm sorry this took so long. I'm just trying to make sure that I get everything right. So yeah, so I have two monitors, so what I'll do is I'll like just kind of put this on my other one, and then I'll just kind of look at it for reference. So yeah. Alright, so I kind of have the pose now. Kind of put my own spin on it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of clean it up a little bit. So it looks very rough right now, and even if we were to render it, it's going to look very kind of awkward, and it's just not going to look right, I guess. So alright, so the way we're going to clean this up is kind of make it look more natural, make it look more kind of alive, I guess. So I want this to be like he's holding the sword, and it's kind of like stuck in the ground or something. Something like that, I guess. So, or like he's using it to like kind of keep the balance. It's the way I'm kind of thinking of this. So you just gotta like mess around with everything. One thing I would say is make everything like have movement. So like even like the hips too, you want those to have movement. The arms, the wrists, everything. I don't really typically use wrists that much, to be honest, but it can make it look a lot better, depending on what you're doing. So yeah, so I'm just gonna like change up the feet a little bit, kind of maybe make him like squatting almost, or not really squatting, but like kneeling down. So I'm just gonna kind of do something like this, and then maybe move this back a little, or move forward a little bit, move this, this one. Alright, so that's like, this is also something that kind of happens with me a lot, is I'll have one initial idea, and then I'll kind of transform it into a different idea, or it'll kind of like evolve in its own way. So you can see like the render has drastically changed from what, I wouldn't say drastically, but it kind of changed from what it originally was. And that's okay. That's kind of how you get good ideas. And even sometimes with me, like I'll completely scrap an idea just because it didn't turn out good, or it didn't like look good at all. So yeah, it's just kind of all trial and error. You just got to figure out what looks good, what doesn't, what works, and just all that stuff. It's all dependent on how you look at it and whether you think it's good or not. Alright, so I've kind of settled on this kind of pose right here, and now we're just going to go into all the little details, like the eye expressions, maybe a little bit of the bandana, kind of stuff like that. Just make everything look a lot better and add those like extra details. So like the bandana kind of bent a little bit, or all that stuff. It's just the detail is what really matters in a render, I feel like. So if you don't have a whole lot, it's not going to turn out as good as you want it to. Yeah, it's just up to you. And last thing is the jacket. That's usually what I do last. So for this, I'm just going to kind of warp it around everything and make everything look good with it, I guess. So I'm not going to be going over how to use it though. It's just not something I intended in this video. So yeah, go watch a video on how to use it. Alright, so I kind of got the jacket all warped around the character, and it looks pretty good. Next thing I'm going to do is the facial expressions, and this is something I feel like my rig does really well, is the eye movements and everything, and just makes it look really good. So typically you want to be able to feel like the emotion, so I'm just going to be doing some kind of random things with it, making it kind of look mad and everything, and just overall just adding fine details to it. So yeah. Alright, so I kind of got the eye expressions looking pretty good. He looks pretty mad, and that's kind of how I wanted it, so it looks pretty good. So at this point we're going to set up the camera, and then we're going to render this. So just any little minor details that like you kind of want to add, make sure you do it. I mean, you can render it again if you want, but yeah. So you want to find a good angle. So I think this could be a good angle. We're gonna go for this kind of angle right here, just because I like how this looks. Although I do want the sword to be kind of tilted so that you can see the side of it, because it looks very flat. So I might do it like right there. I think that's a good angle. Alright, so you're going to want to find like the center, and then you're going to notice these little like almost transparent black lines right here, and then on the bottom. If you don't see that, then you probably have it all the way out, and then you're good. Or you might see them on the sides, but for me, the way my layout is set up, I have them on the top and bottom. So that's basically, these lines mean that this isn't going to show up in the render. So if you had it like this, or even like this little section right here, it's not going to show up. So just keep that in mind. So I like this angle, I like everything, so I'm going to add a camera. And then on the camera, you're going to notice this little icon right here. Just press that, and then that'll put you into the camera's view. And then in here, you want to go to Object, Classic. You can change this to whatever you want. This is just the field of vision, or FOV. So typically, I'll do like maybe wide angle, or maybe even super wide if it's like a big shot, but I just typically do wide angle, and maybe we'll adjust it a little bit. So maybe like right there is pretty good. Alright, so everything looks good. Now we can just test it to render, and everything looks good so far. And then we're just gonna let it go. Alright, so now we have the render, and everything looks good except the way that the sword is positioned, and I do not like the fingers on this. It's kind of a bug with my rig. The fingers get distorted in some ways, so we're gonna fix that. But just, you want to look for any minor details that you don't really want, like for example the sword. I don't like that. We're gonna make the sword thicker, and but yeah, facial expressions look good, everything looks good. So yeah, now we just gotta edit everything. Alright, so I think everything is good. We're going to do a second render, and I'm actually going to move this down a little bit. And then we're going to do a test render real quick, and then we'll do a final render. Alright, so everything looks pretty good. The only thing that we need to do is change the lighting, and that's going to be pretty simple. All we have to do is change this light right here, make it point towards the face a little bit, kind of do something like that, and then we'll test render it again. Alright, so everything looks pretty good. So what we're gonna do is just render this out with the main render and just wait for it. Alright, so now we have it's all rendered out and everything. So what you want to do is you just want to click this little button right here, and then you're going to get everything right here. Make sure that it's set to PNG, because that's what we want. We don't want it to be anything else. Still image, everything else is just kind of normal. And then click OK, and then just save it to wherever you want. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's basically it for this tutorial. Hopefully this helped some of you guys. I know it was kind of a lengthy tutorial because it was 2 tutorials kind of in one. But yeah, so next tutorial will be on how to make the render look good with effects and everything in Photoshop. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.